Hi, it's Dr. Helen Edwards Writes, and I am going to do my first Australian book recommendation. I have quite a lot of blogs over at helenedwardswrites.com where I do book reviews, ranging from picture books right through to adult fiction and non-fiction. And I'm going to be featuring some of those here on my YouTube channel and sharing them across to the blog as well. So what I'm actually going to do in this video is it is focused on middle grade, which is my area of favourite area of reading and writing. So I predominantly focus on writing middle grade books. And if you're wondering what middle grade books are, it's essentially targeting children in that sort of 10 to 14 age group. So that middle section of primary school into early high school. Children and young people tend to want to read a couple of years ahead of them. So for example, kids who are 8 want to read about kids who are 10, 11, 12, and so on. So the idea is that the protagonist or the main character or characters are generally a couple of years older than the readership group. However, many middle grade and young adult books are read by adults, including myself, and loved for lots of different reasons. And I wanted to talk to you today about 10, I think, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just make sure I got that correct. 10 Australian middle grade books that are not just for middle grade. So these are books I've read and recommend. I'm just going to run through them, and then I will put some links in the show notes about where you can find out more. So the first one is Astors Good Right Things, and this is by Kate Gordon, and she's one of my favourite Australian children's authors. Kate writes with a lot of heart. She writes often about characters who are neurodivergent or dealing with mental health issues, and she has a lot of insight and a very beautiful way, a turn of phrase and a very lyrical way of writing that draws you into the emotion and the heart of the story. And this story is about 11-year-old Astor, and she has this, I'll read what it says here. She says, "I can't let go of them, the good, right things, because if I do, I'll turn into a cloud and I'll float away, and a storm will come and blow me to nothing." And Astor goes to a school for gifted children, but she doesn't think she's special. She thinks that if she was, her mother wouldn't have left. And each day she gives herself a challenge to do a good, right thing. So it's to make someone else's life better. And no one can know about these things because then they won't count. And if she doesn't do them, she's sure everything will go wrong. Until she meets a boy called Xavier, who has his own kind of special missions to make life better. And when they do these missions together, Astor feels free. But if she stops doing her good right things, will everything fall apart? It's an absolutely gorgeous book, which made me cry, as many books do. It's an easy read, and I recommend that for ages 10 and up. The Goodbye Year by Emily Gale, which is a recent book, came out in 2022. It's the first book that I've actually read set during the pandemic in Melbourne, and I reviewed this book on my website, and I think I've also reviewed Astors Good Right Things over on my blog as well, so you can find out more over there. This one, Emily's one of my favourite authors as well for middle grade. She's very active in the Australian children's literature community. And this book is set at the start of 2020. And the main character, Harper, is really excited because she's at that transitional period of her life where she's going into high school next year. And she goes to Riverlark Primary School. But one by one, things go wrong. Her best friends are made school captains, and they're so busy with their roles, they don't seem to have time for her anymore. Her parents take jobs overseas as nurses in a war zone, and she's bundled off to stay with her grandmother, who she hardly knows. And then the pandemic arrives, bringing more things to worry about. Harper's special year is turning out to be nothing like she'd hoped it would be. And then there is the ghost. Who is the boy in the library? Why is he here? And will he help Harper to find a way to be happy with her goodbye year? I've reviewed this over on helenedwardswrites.com. It's a stunning book. It really addresses some of the issues around living through, particularly the Melbourne lockdown period, without that being the focus. The focus is very much on Harper and her journey through this transition period in her life. But there is that backdrop, I guess, additional pressures and stress around lockdown, and also this wonderful addition of having a ghost, and who this ghost is and how this ghost is actually going to affect Harper's life and how she's going to affect his life. So I highly recommend that also. All of these books really would be for about ages 10, 11 up, but what I guess I want to really make a point of is that if you are an older teenager, if you have an older teenager, or if you're an adult and you're interested in particularly reading books that have got a lot of heart, which is something that I'm drawn to, then these books are for you. This is a book, Everything We Keep, and it's everything, not everything, everything we keep. And this is by Di Walker, who I also really enjoy. There's another couple of books of hers that I've loved. And this book came out, I think it came out in 2021 and was re-released with this special edition in 2022. I have reviewed this also. And this is a book which focuses on what it's like to live in a family where people are hanging on to things, hoarding, I guess, for some very difficult and traumatic reasons. And I'll read you the blurb. Trailing her orange suitcase and a heart full of worry, 13-year-old Agatha is about to go home. She has been in and out of foster care for years now, but her latest new life, lived with naval precision with Catherine Lawson and their dog Chief, has proved to be the salvation that Agatha needed. She has new friends, a sense of place and a space to breathe. But when the social worker says it's time to return to her parents, Agatha's world comes crashing down. Home has always made her anxious and ashamed, and she can't understand why now she's being forced to go back. Is it possible to find a way to love her parents without having to live with them? Very emotional again, but also very gripping, and sections of the book that just had me. I know my husband came in towards the end and I said, go away, I need to get to the end of this book. So that is also reviewed over on my blog. The Book of Chance by Sue Whiting. Sue is actually a very long and well-known Australian children's author. She was the teacher when I did my first Writing for Children's course with the Australian Writers' Centre. And I love everything Sue writes. I'll be reviewing another of her more recent books soon as well. This book is a little bit unique because it kind of starts at the end and goes back. And you find out what has happened and how this story is woven as you go. So for Chance Callahan, life is black and white, fake or real, right or wrong, truth or lies, there are no in-betweens. When a reality TV show starts filming, Chance's family is thrown into the spotlight and Chance uncovers a devastating truth. A truth that challenges everything that Chance believes is true. A truth from which there is no turning back. So this book really draws you in and keeps you hooked and turning the pages. And again, will be a book that not only children but adults will love as well. A real mystery and a really interesting premise to that book. The Jammer by Nova Weetman is one I recently reviewed over on my blog too. Nova's an amazing writer. She's really got an ability to connect emotionally with people and to get inside the head, particularly of young people and teenagers. And this came out last year in 2022. It's set around a character called Fred, who's experienced a great loss in her life. And it's this period following that and how she deals with this transition in her life. Fred has moved around her whole life, one small town after another. She never minded starting over because she always had her mum, her dad, and her love of roller derby. So roller derby is what this book is centred around. On the track, she was Fred or dead, the star jammer, a gun at smashing through a line of bodies and scoring for her team. But now Fred's life has fallen apart and she can't imagine putting her skates on again. After road tripping to Melbourne with her dad, Fred meets a bunch of people who think they know what's best for her. And although she tries to avoid it, roller derby has a way of barging back into her life. A true jammer could push through anything, but Fred doesn't know who she is anymore. Brilliant book. Very heartfelt, and lots of things in there that adults will identify with as well as children. Sensitive by Allayne Webster. Allayne is a wonderful Australian children and young adult author who comes from Adelaide, where I live. And this book is from a couple of years ago. I reckon it might have been 2019 or 2020. Really stayed with me as someone who lives with chronic illness, because Allayne herself lives with eczema and some of the issues that are brought up in this book, sensitive in terms of allergies and sensitivities to the environment around her. And it's a very powerful book, and I highly recommend, particularly for people who do live with a hidden disability or chronic illness, and particularly for kids and young people, but also for adults. So this is how main character Samantha feels. I've decided to stop being me. Finito, game over, access denied. When 13-year-old Samantha moves to a new town, she decides to reinvent herself. She wants to be called SJ now. She's going to be cool and mysterious, but above all, she's going to pretend to be healthy. SJ suffers from chronic eczema and allergies. She's sick of doctor's appointments and tests, sick of itchiness and pain, sick of looking different, feeling different. All SJ wants is to be normal. She'll do whatever it takes to keep her illness a secret. After all, would new friend Livy or cute boy Sam still want to hang out with her if they knew the truth? This story, the main character, SJ, is 13. So it is a middle grade, but it's a bit of a middle grade YA crossover. And again, as I said, another one great for adults. The Secret Library of Hummingbird House by Julianne Negri. This came out, I think, in 2021. 2020. It came out in 2020. This is a gorgeous magical fantasy story with a contemporary element at its heart. As all good middle grade books, it's about transitions, and it's about making sense of your life. It's about that emotional inner journey that you make as you grow up. And main character Hattie Maxwell is trying to make sense of her life since the big split. It used to be the four of them, Mum, Dad, Ivy and Hattie, against the universe. But lately it feels like she's a lone star in a big galaxy. Her one escape is Hummingbird House, an old mansion with a giant mulberry tree, just perfect for climbing to hide from the world. So when Hattie learns that the house is going to be demolished, she's determined to save it. A midnight visit becomes a step back in time, and Hummingbird House reveals its secret, a hidden library, a mysterious new friend, and a lost treasure that could be the key to stopping the development. Can the past Hattie fix her present? And it's a wonderful time slip novel, which I adore, and also has a real contemporary twist in terms of the issues at the heart of it. So it's a beautiful read. This book by one of our well-loved Australian children's authors again, Jane Godwin, When Rain Turns to Snow. I reckon this is probably 2020 as well. Yes, from 2020. Had me crying and laughing, and again wondering, I need to get to the end, I need to find out what's going to happen to these characters. I was very invested in them. A runaway, a baby, and a whole lot of questions. Lissa is home on her own when a stranger turns up on the doorstep, carrying a baby. Reed is on the run. Surely people are looking for him. He thinks he's connected to Lissa's mum, but how? And why has he been left in charge of a baby who is sick and getting sicker? Reed's appearance stirs up untold histories in Lissa's family, and suddenly she's having to make sense of her past in a way she would never have imagined. Meanwhile, her brother is dealing with a devastating secret of his own. This is an absolutely beautiful coming-of-age story. It is very emotional. I was quite frightened at times as to what was going to happen to these characters, particularly with the addition of the sick baby. And the title draws a lot of emotion, I believe, When Rain Turns to Snow, because when you read the story, you'll understand the metaphor and why it's there, but it also just has that sense of things, passage of time, and of the change of things. So yeah, another one that is highly recommended for adults as well as children. The Bravest Word by Kate Foster, who is a neurodivergent author who always includes dogs in her stories as well, and always writes stories with neurodivergent characters out there doing their thing, living life and having adventures and dealing with the things that come up for all of us. And it's one of the reasons why she is so well respected in this space. And this book really, again, got to my heart. And I'm just going to read a little bit about what the bravest word, see if you can guess what that bravest word might be. Do you hear that? You're Cliff now, and your life is going to get better, I promise. When 11-year-old Matt finds Cliff, a hurt, neglected dog abandoned in the bush, He knows the brave little pup needs saving. He wants to help, but can he? Lately, Matt has had more bad days than good. The pieces of his life just don't seem to fit together anymore, and he doesn't understand why. He's finding it impossible to concentrate at school and has lost interest in the activities he used to love. Plus, he's tired all the time. Matt's too afraid to share what's really going on with anyone. His friends and family will never understand. Maybe it's not only Cliff who needs saving. And it's a really important book for mental health awareness. I was crying with the dog because that's me. I cry whenever there's animals in trouble. It's a beautiful story about friendship and self-belief and understanding what you need and why you're important enough to say that you need it. So again, recommended for adults. I'm going to finish, and I could have gone all day, but I've already done quite a long review video here. And I wanted to do this to begin this new adventure I'm having in my YouTube channel, because there are so many books that I read and I want to share, and I do that via my blog, which I think is a wonderful way to come and dip in and out and find a book. But I also think this is a good way to go through and bookmark different things that you might want to go back to later. This is an award-winning author who I really admire and aspire to. She's definitely an idol of mine, being an historical fiction writer myself for this age group. She's now got 3 books out that are historical fiction set around World War II with different aspects of different countries and culture. And I've read 2, and the next one's on my to-be-read pile, so you'll see a review from that soon too. I think I've reviewed this on my blog. I know I've reviewed her next book on there. These books are not only beautiful, but the covers are the hardback covers, and she has won many awards. She won Historical Fiction Award, Children's Book Council Awards for this book and her next book as well. And this is actually set around a real, not real people, but something that really happened during World War II in Germany. And so it's something that I never knew about. And it's called We Are Wolves, and it's by Katrina Nannestad. I don't think I said that. Sometimes it's good to be wild. Sometimes you have to be wild. When the Russian army marches into East Prussia at the end of the war, the wolf family must flee. Liesel, Otto and their baby sister Mia find themselves lost and alone in a blizzard in the middle of a war zone. Liesel has promised Mama that she will keep her brother and sister safe, but sometimes to survive you have to do bad things, dangerous things, wild things. Sometimes to survive you must become a wolf. This is one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. I highly recommend you read everything Katrina Nannestad writes. There's lots to be learned for children and adults. Lots of emotion. You will connect with the main character straight away as you follow their journey, and it will keep you reading well into the night until you finish this book. So I'm finishing with this beauty by Katrina Nannestad. So hopefully you've stuck with me and you've got something out of this. I'd love you to subscribe to the channel if you've just come across me. Hop over to helenedwardswrites.com where you'll find all information about the books that I review, the authors that I feature, also tips on well-being and mental health and sustainability and green living. And you'll also find out about when my book and books are coming out and where I'm going to be appearing in person and all that sort of stuff as well. So happy reading, and hopefully you will delve into middle grade books. Bye for now.